I would like to pass over the floor to Dr. Said, Associate Professor Dr. Said, as well as to Dr. Navas. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Prof. Noor Haya and Prof. Noor Azila, and William and G from Emerald. Okay, if you allow me, I'd like to share my slides. Actually, Prof. Noor Haya already shared everything I wanted to discuss today. It was very informative opening. Now I don't know what to present.
No.
Okay, so I'm the co-host, so I should be able to share the slides. Okay. You should see my slides now.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so yeah, today's webinar, the title is how to avoid death rejection, but William from Emerald, he changed it a bit. The topic he used was how to avoid death rejection tips and tricks. But the original name for this webinar is the first 4 minutes. Now you may want to ask me, why the first 4 minutes? What do you mean by the first 4 minutes? Okay, be patient, we will share it with you. My name is Said, and here we have Dr. Nawaz from Taylor's University. We will introduce ourselves after briefly introducing Taylor's University, because we have participants from all over the world. I'm Taylor's staff. If I don't do this, I may lose my job. So be patient for maybe 30 seconds. Taylor's University is #1 private university in Malaysia and Southeast Asia. And this year we ranked 89 in Asia and 379 in QS World Ranking 2021. Okay. And yep, this is me. Okay, I'm head of research in Faculty of Business and Law, and I'm the director and founder of Center for Industrial Revolution and Innovation, Taylor's University. But here today, I'd like to share my experience with you as the editor-in-chief of Asia Pacific Journal of Business Administration, which is an Emerald journal. I'm also associate editor of Journal of Economic and Administrative Sciences, and I'm on the editorial board of a few other Emerald journals as well. And here we have my beautiful colleague, Dr. Nawaz. You know, we can't do magic without any beautiful assistant, but actually here I'm the assistant. So anyway, Nawaz, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Let me, before I start about myself, let me thank Emerald and Unicell for giving me the opportunity. And actually, I assume that this is my first presence, although it is virtually, but this is my first presence in Unicell and Emerald. Okay, my name is Nawaz. I'm also from Taylor's University. I'm PhD program director, and also I'm a coordinator in one of our research center, which is Center for Industrial Revolution and Innovation. You'll get to know more about it. And I serve as associate editor of Asia Pacific Journal of Business Administration. And of course, I am the editorial member of some other journals, but of course, I just mentioned the journal which is associated with Emerald.
Thank you. And Asia Pacific Journal of Business Administration is indexed in the Scopus, ESCI, ABS, and ABDC. Okay, before we start, I invite everyone to, this session is live now, streamed live on YouTube, in Doctor's live channel. So I invite everyone to join the channel. Nawaz?
Yeah, let us introduce the joint channel that we created together. This is Doctor's Live, a channel which is mainly research oriented. So basically the aim of this channel is to show that research is not all about boring stuff and material and spending hours on writing the research materials, but also it can be very fun. So that's why you can refer to our YouTube, and not only the videos are informative, but also we tried our best to make them as fun as possible. And of course, we'll be pleased to remain connected with you even after the webinar. So that's why we have shared our LinkedIn account. So feel free to get connected.
Yeah, so please scan the QR code and subscribe to this channel. In our latest video, we just to give you an idea of what this channel is about. So there are short videos. The plan is to make short videos, and the latest one to improve awareness. In the latest one that you can see here, oh, it's not the latest one, we haven't updated the slides. But anyway, in the video that you see here, we put together random sentences from random papers, and then we prepared a random paper and submitted to a journal that we found a link on Scopus database, and we got acceptance. So this shows, you know, the importance of having a good understanding of predatory journals. So anyway, I invite everyone to join the channel and follow us, subscribe to Doctor's Life, and yep, here you can see our LinkedIn accounts. Yep.
And then if you remember, Prof. Said started the session with the original name of it, which is the first 4 minutes. Actually, the idea of these first 4 minutes is taken from a book which is published in 1972, and it is titled Contact, the first 4 minutes. So we have copied some sentences from the book that you can see. In 4 minutes, you will know if the person you are talking to is someone you are interested in. Yes, it only takes about 4 minutes to decide. Yet in that brief time, you and your partner will have made an impression on one another. I'm not sure whether you have experienced this first impression, or do you believe in first impression or first glance? So these first 4 minutes, okay, don't worry, we are not going to share any tips on the first dating or anything, but what I'm trying to say is that this first 4 minutes is applicable to various aspects of our life. So would you like to know whether this first 4 minutes is applicable once somebody has their role as chief editor of a journal? So Said will explain to you.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, based on my past experience and after my discussion with a few other editors of journals that I knew, I reached to the conclusion that we may reject papers on average in 4 minutes. So, and this is called desk rejection, without sending it for review. So when the paper is desk rejected, you don't receive any comment. So it's just rejected by just usually a simple standard statement that we regret to inform you that we cannot proceed with this submission or this manuscript. And as I said, without any comment. So on average, it takes around 4 minutes that your paper gets rejected. Yeah, you may receive this 4 minutes, you know, decision in a week or a few weeks or a few months. It depends when the editor checks your paper. But the assessment, the initial assessment is very quick. So here we want to share with you how to improve your paper to pass this stage, and why this stage is so important, because this is one of the biggest barriers in publication. I did a quick search and I found that in many reputable journals, the desk rejection rate is around 30 to 50% on average. In some journals it's higher, and these days, because number of submissions has increased, even is more. For example, in our journal, it's around 80%. So 80% of papers may get rejected without receiving comments. It means in around average 4 minutes, right? So if you pass this stage and the reviewers send your, the editors send your work for review, then you have a high chance. Let's say maybe, I don't know, I haven't done any study on this, but based on my personal experience, maybe 50% chance to get acceptance after addressing the comments. So this rejection has become one of the biggest barriers in publication. And there are simple tricks that you can, simple things that you can apply to improve your chance to pass this stage, right? There's no guarantee, but of course you can improve it. So before we share the tips with you, it's good to have an overview of the review process in journals on their with reputable publishers. So the first is, of course, submission. You spend maybe a few months, a few years on your study and prepare your manuscript. It can be your PhD work, so it may take 3 years to 5 years to complete the study and prepare the manuscript. And then you submit it to a journal. So when you submit your paper, this is exactly what I see when I log into the manuscript management system that we have. For example, here you can see I have 107 submissions to check, right? So when you submit, all are assigned to the editor-in-chief. So now as the editor-in-chief, I have to go through these 107 submissions and decide whether to send them to assign them to the associate editors, or I reject them without any comment. And this is called DS rejection. And as I said, most of the papers get rejected at this stage, right? So if I find some issues with the paper, I may reject it at this stage. And today I want to share those issues, right? So if you address them, hopefully you will increase the chance to pass this stage. But if I see potential and I believe that the paper, is in the scope of the journal, then I will assign it to the associate editors. For example, Dr. Navas is one of the associate editors for this journal. Then associate editor may do the same, may do some screening and then may reject again or send it for review. So if the manuscript is sent for review, then you may get one of these 4 decisions that you can see here. Accept, minor, major, reject. I don't think you get acceptance in the first round from any reputable journal. In our journal, I haven't seen any acceptance in the first round. Usually it's minor, major, or reject. And for minor and major, it depends, the main difference is the time they give you to address the comments. So if we find, for example, there are so many things you need to improve, we will give you more, we will be given more time by the major decision. Minor means you should be able to address them, let's say in a few weeks, and reject means that, sorry, you have to submit it somewhere else. So after you address the comments, you will resubmit if you get minor or major, and then again, the manuscript will be reviewed, and they will continue this until that the reviewers and editors are happy about the paper, and they will issue hopefully the acceptance letter. So what we want to share with you is just about the first stage. It's about the first stage, which is the biggest, the most important stage in terms of the failure rate, the rejection rate, which, as I said, is between 50 to 80%. So yeah, so the first that we want to share, the first tip is about journal format. So Nawaz, do you have anything to share?
Yes, journal format. You see that, for example, let's say that I have logged into my account and I want to check that how many submissions editor-in-chief has assigned to me. So the first task that I have to do is that normally I do initial screening to check the format. Do remember that every editor-in-chief and associate editors, they are well versed with their own authors' guidelines of their journal. So it means that automatically, once I look at your paper, I know that whether as an author, you have read the author guidelines of our journal or not. For example, starting from the review process, I know that in our author guideline, specifically, we have mentioned that our journal is following the blind review process. So it means that the name of the author should not be stated in the first page. So imagine that once I open the page and I can see that the authors, they have put their name and affiliation in the paper, definitely it gives the first impression that even it may take me less than 4 minutes to make the first decision. So the first one is the title, and to make sure that to make sure that the authors, which is coming in the title page, the author names and the affiliation is not listed in the title page. The second part is the abstract. You have to check the author guidelines of journal to see that the abstracts are supposed to be in the structure format or not. For example, most of the Emerald journals, they require the structure format. So once I receive any abstract which is not following our guidelines, so definitely this is another reason for me to see that even the author has not referred to our website. And another important point about the format is our journal referencing style. Each journal, there are two categories of journal in this matter. Either the journal specifically mentions that you have to follow a particular referencing style, or they do not specifically mention anything and they will say that you can follow any format as long as it is consistent. So you have to check to make sure that your referencing and your referencing style is consistent throughout the manuscript. And then if the journal is limiting you to using one particular format, you should make sure that you are using that. I do understand that it's going to be a tedious task if you submit to one journal and then you get the desk rejection and then you have to again submit to the second journal. And for each journal, you have to go through the author guidelines to make sure that you are complying all the guidance. I do understand that this is tedious, but it is going to leave a very good impression once you follow the guidelines. And make sure that normally you check the format of previously published papers of that journal, of the targeted journals, because it will tell you that what is the overall format of the paper.
Yeah, actually, this is what I do. When I want to submit, I download some of the latest published papers in the journal and see, check the format, the structure, and revise my manuscript following them. Yep, that was.
Oh, another important point that normally absorbs my attention in the first glance is the shape of the tables. Okay, let me ask you the question. Imagine that you have these two types of tables that is pasted in the paper. So the first one is just copy and pasted from the SPSS output. And the second one is the hand-drawn, is the author-drawn table. So normally we receive these two types of tables. So which one is preferable? Of course, it's pretty obvious that once it is copy and pasted, you can see that first of all, once you copy and paste the table from the SPSS or from any other software, it is not editable, which is again another negative sign. You receive another negative point. So make sure that the tables that you are using are editable. That's the first point. Second point is that we have to try that we minimize the number of the tables. Minimize in a form that we can summarize instead of, let's say that in the first table, it is reported the correlation. The correlation among the variables is reported. In the second table, you can see, apart from the correlation which is reported, but also one extra information is given, which is, for example, the descriptive statistic of the participant. So you can see that in the smaller table, more information is added. Another point, that some redundant or extra number is deleted in this paper because you know that it's a symmetric table which is reporting the correlation, and some numbers are double counted, double reported. So that's why we have to remove all of them. And very important point, what is the difference in terms of formatting between these two tables? One, you can see the vertical and horizontal lines are there. And the other one, you can see that the vertical lines are removed. So that's, again, another important point that most of the time in most of the journals, they do not like these vertical lines to be there. So again, what is the advice? Follow the previously published papers of that particular journal.
Yeah, Nawaz, some of my students, they used to tell me that, oh, I had a very good idea, an excellent idea, right? I worked on this project for 3 years, 5 years, I prepare the manuscript and submit it, and you are rejecting my manuscript just because of formatting?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, my answer is, the assumption we receive so many submissions. I just showed you, for example, 107 submissions. It depends on the journal. Some journals receive maybe a day, 100 submissions. Some of them maybe in a week or a month. But we don't have enough resources. We can send all manuscripts to reviewers, and review is just a voluntary job, right? So we don't pay to the reviewers. Actually, most of the process here is just a voluntary job. So we cannot, how many reviewers do we need? For each manuscript, we may need 3 or 4 reviewers, right? And now imagine that I want to send all these, how many do I need? It's a huge number of reviewers I need for this review process, right? So we need to be selective, right? So one of the things I have had this discussion in a roundtable with other editors. So usually, yeah, of course, we should, we understand that you may have a very good idea, but the presentation matters. So when you don't follow, you are not familiar with referencing, you are not familiar with preparing the tables, figures, you just copy paste, as you said, the output of the statistical software into your manuscript. The editors assumes that if you don't know formatting, you may not know how to do a study properly. In many cases, this is wrong, a wrong assumption, but there's no choice. We have limited resources. We have to select some of these submissions. So this can be one of the reasons we may reject, especially, the tables, they are really annoying. So, and I tell you, when we see some of these issues, let's say with tables or formatting, when we check other parts, we find other issues as well. I mean, if you are an experienced researcher, I don't think you make these mistakes, right? And if we find one of these issues in the manuscript, usually there are other issues as well. And when we check, you see, yeah. So formatting, I would say, it's the most common reason manuscript is rejected immediately, right? Okay, let me explain this. I'm not sure. Okay. The manuscript management system is so smart, right? So they are using some machine learning algorithm, AI algorithm, to assess the risk of the manuscript. So this is not something you can see. So only the editors can see this panel, right? Which panel? I have copy pasted it from there. For example, this for Asia Pacific Journal of Business Administration. It's exactly, I copy pasted, inserted in this slide, the medium high. You see this one? So the manuscripts are rated as low risk, medium risk, and high risk. When it's high risk, it's there is a red ribbon there, and when you log in, you get panic. Oh my God, what happened here in this manuscript? And then you check. There is a report generated by the system, and the issues have been highlighted there. I just give you some examples, then I don't want to go into details, but I just give you some examples, and then I tell you what to do. For example, one of the cases I have inserted here is, you see, submitting computer has been linked to multiple submissions and reviews by different authors. So 2 submissions in this journal by different authors, 36 submissions outside of this journal. This is one example. Another example we got a few days ago. So the system will check the computer that you are using, the device you are using to submit your manuscript, the geographical location, the IP address, many things are checked. And based on that, they prepare a report. And I don't say that we reject papers because it's rated as medium or high risk, but we check carefully the manuscript. And usually we find some other reasons to reject the paper. I tell you what happens. For example, if the same computer has submitted, let's say, 100 manuscripts this month to different journals, there is something fishy, right? I don't think a researcher can submit 100 papers in a month, at least in our field, to different journals. Then we check. When we check, usually I find, very interesting things behind it. Or, for example, the reviewer and the author all are from the same institution or are in the same area, right? So this may be conflict of interest. Or, for example, things like self-plagiarism, when you have used your materials you already have published again in your new submission. So these may may result in being assessed at medium or high. And then when later we check, we find other issues, and then we may reject. So now what's the advice? So what are how this algorithm work? What are the factors that leads to this, impact this assessment? It doesn't matter, right? I also don't know, right? But what is my advice is make sure that you are following the ethical practices. Make sure that you don't do self-plagiarism. You are doing everything following the ethic guidelines, right? Don't do something, you know, let's say wrong. Let me give you one more example. It was not detected by this system, but this is a very small word. We have posted in our LinkedIn as well. So I think it was 2 months ago, that I sent a paper for review, and then the reviewer rejected the paper without any comments, to the authors, just with one comment to the editor. And the comment was, a few days ago, I reviewed this manuscript for another journal. And that journal was not even with Emerald, it was with Taylor and Francis, right? So the author had submitted the same manuscript to 2 journals, one with Emerald, one with Taylor and Francis, right? So you see, it's a very small word. And then, of course, I wrote back to the author and explained to him that this was not ethical and we won't accept any submission from you in the future, right? So many editors are too, you know, it's really very unethical and unprofessional. So anyway, what I'm suggesting here is just make sure that you are doing it properly, right? We should follow just the ethics guidelines and submit our manuscript. Not everything is detected by the system, but as I said, it's a very small word. Okay, anyway, then we have aims and a scope. Yeah. So when you want to prepare your manuscript, it's good to carefully read the aims and scope of the journal. So visit the journal website and read the aim and scope and make sure your paper is good for this journal. Sometimes the aims and scope are a bit broad or general. So my suggestion is, as now was just suggested, go through the latest publications in the journal and see, you know, what papers usually they publish, right? I can give you a few examples. For example, there are some journals, they have clearly stated in their author's guideline that they don't accept papers that have used PLS method. There are some journals, they don't accept papers who use PLS method. So if you're using PLS, you should not submit to this journal. There are some journals, they don't accept review papers. So if you have a review paper, don't send to this journal, right? So read the aims and scope and check the latest publications in the journal and make sure your paper is suitable for the journal and readers of the journal. And how to check the latest papers of the journal? What I usually do is, of course, you can go to the website of the journal, but what I usually do is I use the advanced search engine of Google. So when you click on advanced search, you will get this box and you can write the name of the journal in double quotation here, like you can see, and then press search button. Then it will give you all papers published in this journal. Then you can limit the year to, let's say, the past 2 years, and then just go through the titles and see what papers have been accepted recently. Or you can use journal finders, just write the publisher name and journal finders. Usually they have a platform to suggest some journals based on the title and abstract of your work. So just in Google, write, let's say, journal finder, then publisher name. Usually there are some platforms to help you. Yeah, okay, that was.
And okay, I suddenly, once you were talking, I remember to add one more point in the journal scope, that don't judge the journal scope by the title of the journal. Let's say that our journal is Asia Pacific Journal of Business Administration. The title of the journal, maybe it gives the impression that we are accepting only the paper from Asia Pacific, which I'm not saying that whether it is true or not, but I will request you to go through aims and scope of the journal, and then you'll get back to us that is it true or are we open to the submissions from all around the world. Then Another point is about, again, maybe the points are looking so simple and basic, but it is the common mistake that even sometimes myself, I'm committing this mistake. And it's about language and spelling issues. You see that English language for many of us is the second language. So many of us, we are not native speakers. And the same goes to our readers, the people who are reading our publications. So that's why you don't need to look for fancy words or complex words in your write-up. The language can be very simple, but it should be correct. It should be error-free or free from any spelling issue. So how you can do that? Of course, there are various services available. So it's pretty obvious that every publisher like Emerald or other publishers, they have the paid services for the checking the language, so you can submit. Or alternatively, you can check your friends, your family members, anybody, if you know anybody around you that they can read, they can go through your papers and suggest advice if there is any language issue. And of course, on top of that, the simplest thing is the Word or Google Doc itself, which immediately as soon as you copy and paste your manuscript into it, it will highlight the issues for you. So that's why you can just trust Google or you can trust Word. And then, oh, okay, so you can see here that this is something that normally even once I'm writing an email, I use Google because even I copy and paste my email into Google, Google will pick some very basic issues that I have skipped or it has gone out of my site. So that's why you can just activate your Word option, which is picking the issues for you, and then all the spelling or even the grammatical issues will be highlighted for you. Apart from that, there are some softwares that, of course, the software, some part of the software are paid, but there are softwares that are offering the free service, and you can use the name of the software are listed here, and you can refer to those software.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes we miss them. You don't trust your eyes. I mean, it happens every time that I write even a letter. I make mistakes, yeah? So I use these services, especially I use the Google Doc and Google Doc and Microsoft Word to find my grammatical and especially spelling mistakes, right? And I can show you, I can prove you that sometimes we make mistakes. You should not trust your eyes. I can't prove it. This was wrong. So now I can correct it. Did you notice that this was wrong? Did you notice that the language spelling was wrong? So I corrected it, right? So don't trust your eyes, right? We always make mistakes. Okay, yes.
Okay, another important point is choosing the topic. Of course, once we are talking about research paper, we are talking about the years of suffering. I don't want to say suffering, but years of experience that we have spent a lot of time to develop our research. So that's why it's very important that we choose a topic which is quite attractive. So how we can understand that which topic is suitable or which topic is not suitable? Of course, there are two general tips that it shouldn't be too broad. So in a sense that, for example, look at this example, which is saying that corporate governance in listed companies, of course, is like too broad. And it shouldn't be too narrow, mentioning a lot of details into it. And is providing the narrow in a sense that the topic itself is providing a lot of information. And then let's look at the second example, which is saying that service quality and previous experience as a moderator in determining tourist satisfaction with rural tourism destinations in the west area of Colombo. I feel tired. Sri Lanka, a partial least square structure equation modeling approach. So it looks like more the abstract.
It seems they also inserted the Google map inside the title. Some sort of an address. West area of Colombo district, Sri Lanka.
partially square. So in a sense, you know that the author is trying to provide as much as information as possible, but basically the title is not correct. So again, what's the correct approach? You follow the past papers. So in the area that you are doing your research, you may check for the past papers and see that how they have designed the topic. You may get a lot of idea from there.
Yeah, especially when you are a young researcher, early career researcher, don't be too creative in format. Don't be too creative in, choosing the topic. Yeah, the idea can be very innovative and creative, but the way you report, just follow the format of past studies, right? Okay, now another issue with the topic is the contribution of the study. So sometimes the paper gets rejected and the editor states that, yeah, because maybe they just mentioned that your contribution is not enough. So what do we mean by contribution? In social sciences, by contribution, we usually mean practical contribution and theoretical contribution. Some journals, they prefer practical contribution, like Harvard Business Review. Some journals prefer theoretical contribution, and some, like our journal, many journals, especially in the field of business, they prefer both. So for practical contribution, based on my personal experience, most authors can discuss well. They explain how this will improve people's life, help policymakers to make better decisions, blah, blah, blah. But for about theoretical contribution, so for theoretical contribution, one of the common explanation, usually in papers we receive and get, in some cases they get rejected, is there are so many studies in Western countries, but there is no study in my area. So now the question is, can this be a theoretical contribution? And then what about replication? Means replicating a study in the new context. Okay, I will answer this question. You cannot just say, because there is no study in Malaysia, or there's no study in Sri Lanka, or there's no study in the Philippines, so we need one more study. No. You should explain why we may expect different results if we conduct this study in this context, right? Why you cannot answer your research questions using the past studies, reviewing the literature. There are many studies in other contexts, so why you cannot use those results and apply in this context in Malaysia and answer your research questions? You should explain this. And when I say this, then you may write, yes, this country is unique. My country is unique because, for example, Malaysia is a beautiful country. We have, nice, jungles. We have palm oil, and the GDP of the country is like this. Yes, of course, all countries are unique, and all this information are available on Wikipedia. But this doesn't justify doing one more study. This information doesn't justify spending 3 years of your life on one study and doing it again. So what you need to provide is how your context is unique from the lens of this study, right? So you should explain from the lens of this study why you expect to get different results, why you may get different results if you do the same study in Malaysia. If you expect to get the same result, if you believe that you will get the same result, so why do we need to do the same again, right? And this is about replication, and if you want to use context as a justification. But let me share some other theoretical contributions with you. These are the most common ways to address the theoretical contribution in quantitative studies. One of them, of course, I just explained, is confirmation or replication. For example, you have a theory, as you can see here. It explains the relationship between 3 variables. Now you want to replicate this in another context. I just explained how you need to address this, how you need to explain this theoretical contribution. So the next theoretical contribution can be when you want to provide further explanation. For example, you already have the result. I mean, there are already studies that have tested, as you can see here, the original theory, have tested the relationship between these 3 variables. Now we want to know more about the mechanism behind these relationships. Now we want to know more about why or how or under which condition these relationships exist. So we include mediators and moderators into the model. And another contribution can be extension or integration. For example, you may integrate different theories, or you may extend, let's say, the past models or theories by adding more variables or more theories to have a better understanding of the context of the phenomenon. So these are just the most common ways to address the contribution. It doesn't mean it's limits to this, and these are mostly for quantitative studies. Yeah, that was.
And again, another important tip that in the screening normally absorbs our attention and we are looking for it is that we want to search, we want to know that what are the research objectives and hypotheses, specifically if the study is the quantitative study. Of course, we expect that the hypothesis has to be stated in the manuscript. So again, if you remember, just now Prof. Said mentioned that once you want to develop the topic, you want to think about your topic, don't be so innovative and just follow the past papers. The same goes once you want to write the research objectives of the paper. First of all, make sure that you write down the research objective clearly, specifically. If, for example, for those people that they are professional authors and they are experienced researchers, they can have various styles of developing or writing down their research objectives. But for early career researchers, there is one simple rule that normally we follow in many of our papers is stating the research objectives in the last paragraph of introduction. So it means that in the whole introduction, you explain that what you intend to do, what is the background, and then in the last paragraph, you have to mention the objective. How you can mention, again, it's a typical format. Don't be innovative, just follow the typical format. And the typical format is this. The current study aims to examine, aims to investigate the mechanism between variables, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, sorry, William, we use a paper published in Taylor and Francis. We will update the slides later with Emerald publications.
No, actually, we were thinking, but we didn't have any recent publication with our journal, so that's why we borrowed from another publisher. And another important point, again, we are talking about, I need to again emphasize that it's not a review process, it's just the initial screening that as editor-in-chief or as associate editor once I want to decide that the paper should be submitted for the review process or should be rejected, we do. So after checking the introduction and checking that, okay, the research objectives are clearly stated, then we come to literature review. Literature review, of course, I ask any of you, you know, what is the literature review? Firstly, we check that the recent papers are cited. For example, normally I definitely check that if it is 2021, definitely the articles from 2021 should be cited. And why it is so important? Because I want to make sure that this paper, this research has been done recently. And I want to make sure that the problem that the research is referring to is addressing is a recent problem. Of course, we do understand that referring to the theories and seminal work, it means that you're going to have a lot of outdated citations, but it's okay when it comes to the theory and to the seminal works, it's fine. At the same time, we have to make sure that this theory is yet applicable in the recent work. So that's why we want to make sure that the recent references and citations are available in the text. Another point is that in the literature review, specifically if a study is quantitative, we expect to see the research hypothesis. So it means that we expect that after each explanation about any relationship between variables, we can see that very clearly the hypothesis is stated there. And of course, make sure that if your study is following a deductive approach, so you make sure that the hypotheses are stated. And again, another important point is that you should bear in mind that references should be, most of the time, should be indexed or from the reputable publisher references. If you are using a lot of references which is from the predatory journals. So it means that it should not be so common. Otherwise, you are putting a big question mark on the validity of your research. And again, if you want to show to the editors of the particular journal that you have gone through the papers that this journal has recently published, it means that you have give them a sign. You have the chance to show them the sign. How you can show them, how you can express to them that you are caring or you're following their journals and their publication is simple. Make sure that you cite the papers which has been published by that particular journal. And after screening the literature review, now we go to the methodology. A screening of the methodology is quite fast. For example, if again the study is the quantitative study, normally I check the sample size and I check the methods applied. Sample size, of course, we don't expect a very small sample size. For example, let's say that if you are using a time series analysis, you have to make sure that your time series is long enough, or you are using, for example, SCM, you have to make sure that you have collected enough samples. And once it comes to method, you know that, for example, for the method every day, of course, each method has some drawbacks, and every day a new method is developed to cover the drawbacks of the previous method. So that's why, if possible, I'm not saying that it's a must, if possible, you can use the method which is covering the drawbacks of the initial models, initial methods. Let's say that, for example, if you are using a panel data, instead of using the fixed method or random method, which does not cover the endogeneity effect, for example, you can use the GMM method. So that's why in the initial screening, okay, as the associate editor, I can feel that, okay, you are well aware about the various methods that can be applied in this study, and you are trying to use the one which is covering the drawbacks of the previous ones. Or, for example, if you are using a cross-sectional analysis, of course, for example, SCM method is preferable rather than using a simple regression, cross-sectional regression.
Okay, thank you, Nawaz. And about the discussion, what are the things that we check in the discussion section? Number one is, usually, I mean, it depends on the journal format, but in most journals that I'm familiar with, usually we don't want to see those statistical parameters results again in the discussion section. So the p-value, beta, they should be reported in the results section. In the discussion, it should be just, you need to explain the results using the past literature. So what we want to see is citations, right? So when I don't see any citations, it seems it's just your opinion about the results, and it may get rejected, right? So you need to explain the results from the lens of theory and using the past literature. So when there's no citation, it may get rejected. And we want to see a deep discussion. What's the whole picture? For example, for quantitative studies, you have had, let's say, 5 hypotheses. Usually, in many papers that get rejected, they just write hypothesis 1 is supported, so there is and there is a relationship between X and Y. Hypothesis B is supported, so there is a negative relationship between A and B, and then they may just provide the literature to support it. But what is the whole picture? Why did we do this study? What do you want to say, right? So you should put all this information together and explain the whole scenario, what this study showed, right? Okay, so we have addressed the issues with the title in the introduction section, literature review, methods, and results and discussion. You may address all and still your paper may get rejected. There may be other reasons as well. For example, the journal may not have space for the paper, right? I have seen, even I remember that a few months ago, I saw a journal that even they had mentioned that we don't even accept any manuscript till, let's say, end of the year, because we have received too many submissions and we have reached our quota, we have exceeded our quota and blah, blah, blah. I haven't seen in Emerald journals, but okay, anyway. For some journals may not have space, and their editor may have received, let's say, papers with higher quality. So then in that case, for example, when I receive 100 submissions and I go through them, I compare them, right? So if I see a better paper similar in the same topic, I may reject your paper then, right? If I find the other one with higher quality. So sometimes the paper cannot compete with the high quality of other papers submitted to the journal, and we don't know what are the other submissions as the author, right? And a journal may have recently published something very similar to your paper. Then again, the editor may decide to reject the submission. And at the end, yes, this is true. In many cases, there may be editor's publication bias. You can Google to know more about it. But here, at least in our journal, we do our best to be bias-free. So I have read about it that some, and I have heard, I have talked to some editors. I mean, some of them, they prefer submissions from, let's say, on certain topics, or some of them prefer, studies conducted in certain regions. So this may be true, but yeah, at least in our journal, we always do our best to be bias-free. But if you Google, you will read many stories about it. Anyway, so at the end, you may do all this, and the paper may get rejected, but may get rejected. But I believe that addressing what we shared with you today will improve the passing rate significantly. This is what I believe. This is based on my past experience. And as I said, I have had discussed these issues with my colleagues, other editors. And what we prepared today was a summary of what I have seen since I joined, editor team of journals with Emerald or other reputable publishers. Now, some of you in the chat box, I saw many good questions, and some of you asked me about the materials, for example, the slides. Actually, the slides are more than these, or more slides, and there are other issues that we have discussed. We have other examples as well for each of the things that we discussed today. Here we had 1 hour to present this the topic, but what we have done is, who is writing here? Hold on, let me clear this, clear all drawing. Okay, so what we have done is we have prepared an online course with Emerald. You can find it on our platform. Maybe I can share it with you.
Yeah, you can type www.gosiri.com, and you can go to GoSiri website. The first thing that you are required to do is that you can register. Can you show the register?
Yeah, because here I have logged in, so you don't see the register button. But
yeah, there is a registration button on top right. Yeah, exactly. So once you get registered, you need to key in your name and your email address, and it will take, I think, 24 hours to 48 hours, 1 to 2 days.
1 to 2 days to get approved. Yeah.
Yeah, once you get approved, then I have a good news for you, that you have access to all available courses on CIRI website. So all the courses, of course, the registration is for free, and all these available courses are for free, so you can access them. And my advice, based on my own advice, is that please, if you are using SCM for your research, you can refer to our SCM course, which we have a comprehensive course by Dr. Saeed. And then we have another, again, only I'm sharing my own experience. We have another perfect course if you are intending to do any systematic literature review. So that's also a perfect course, which I'm saying based on the number of views and the comments that we have received on that. And then the good news, okay, apart from that, so you can choose this today webinar, which is how to avoid this rejection. It is available on Siri platform. You take it as a course. Once you take it as a course, then you have to do a simple quiz at the end. So once you do the quiz, you answer, I'm not sure, about 5 or 10 questions. Once you answer the questions, then you can get your certificate, and the certificate was just shown to you. You can do the same for all available courses on Siri. Once you complete the course and you can do the quiz, then you will be able to get the certificate. And of course, the certificate is chopped and endorsed by our partner, Emerald.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here, because I have not logged in, so I cannot show you how to, but when you complete, you do this, there are just MCQ, as Nawaz mentioned. There is a button here, there you can just click and download your certificate. This is the SCM course that Nawaz mentioned. It's a very comprehensive course, and it's called, this is why it's called From Zero to Hero. So anyway, all these courses are for free. So you just need to register and get your certificate, and the materials for today's session is available there as well. Let me share the, so you can download the slides, everything and more than this slide. So the certificate will be exactly like this. Your name will be here, and you can please share it in LinkedIn, and you can tag us to the certificate. We will like your certificate. And okay, the last I'd like to share with you is about our conference with Emerald. The conference will be held on 11th September. So we have 35, I think more than 35 universities already officially have joined this conference. They are supporting this conference. Emerald also is supporting this conference. And there are so many awards, there are publication opportunities, and the conference is for free. So this is a free conference, and you can submit just an abstract. What you need to do is just submit an abstract, and then the abstract will be reviewed, and when you get the acceptance, if you get the acceptance, you can present online or offline in the conference. So offline means if you are from certain countries that because of the time difference, you cannot be live in the session, you can just send a video of your presentation to us. So this is the last gift that we can share with you. So again, this is totally free. Whatever we do at Siri here, our research center, is free. And whatever we do is with Emerald. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Yes.
Let me add one more point about the conference. Of course, we do. First of all, the conference is, of course, is going to be held virtually, and we do understand that there are some people that maybe the time of the conference is not suitable for them. So that's why the innovation that we decided to do is that we accept online presentation and offline presentations. It means that if the time of the conference is not suitable for you, or you are engaged on the day of the conference that you are not able to present your paper in a live session, you can record your presentation and you can send to us. Still, you will be your paper, you can submit your paper, and then of course, once we receive your offline presentation, you will receive the certificate.
Thank you very much. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being patient and attending this session. Now, if you allow me, we can go through the questions.
Maybe, Dr. Said, maybe I can read the questions and then maybe you can answer the question.
Maybe. Right? Yeah, you can answer too. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, let me start from, please change to your morning, afternoon.
So I just noticed that someone wrote how we can get the certificate. As I mentioned, you can register at gosiri.com, and yeah, register for free, and in the day your account will be approved and you can get the certificate. You can just select the course, complete it. There is a quiz, 10 questions, MCQ, then you get the certificate. Yes, Nawaz.
What can we avoid being disrejected? How can we write to convince you, editor-in-chief, to read more? Actually, I do understand. If you don't understand the question, I don't understand either.
Okay, the question was how to avoid this rejection, right? This was the question, the first part at least.
How to avoid being disrejected.
Okay,
yes.
And then there's no guarantee to, make sure that you won't get this rejection. right? It also depends on the quality of the paper, main things. What we shared with you was the main common reasons that your paper may get rejected. So my advice is, okay, something that I can guarantee is, let's say not guarantee, maybe, okay, let's say guarantee. Something in my journal, something that I can guarantee is if you don't follow what we shared with you today, you may get this rejection. But how to not to get this rejection, there is no guarantee, but you can reduce the chance by applying what we shared with you today.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the second part of the question. Yeah.
The second part was about yourself, that how can we write to convince you, editor-in-chief, to read more?
You mean read more in my life? I mean, I just read.
I'm not sure. I'm just reading.
I think it means reading the paper. Okay. Yeah, maybe you can. I don't think it works. Yeah, I don't think it works. At least in journals I'm familiar with, it doesn't work like this, that you write to. There's already a cover letter you can submit when you submit your manuscript, but separately writing to the editor. Yeah, actually, I tell you, to be honest, many write to me LinkedIn or send me email. They say, can you, go through this paper and accept the paper or blah, blah, blah. No, we just, even in my journal, it's usually blind review. We don't check who has written, who are the authors. So we just click on the manuscript, we check the manuscript and make the decision. And I'm telling you the truth. You can ask, if you know my friends, you can ask them. I have rejected many of my friends. I rejected my boss paper. So, so because I don't check who has written the paper, I just check the manuscript and make it. And it receives so many submissions. I don't check who has written the papers, who are the authors. So no, don't write separately to the author. Just you can write in the cover letter if there is something important you want to share, right? Something really important that should be highlighted. Okay.
And Sarah is asking about the cycle of the review. If I understand the question correctly, is that associate editor then? Okay, if you're asking about the cycle of review, I can mention that, okay, let's give the example here about Asia Pacific Journal of Business Administration. Once you submit your paper, Dr. Said is the first person who receives your submission. So the initial screening is going to be done by him. If you can pass his tight initial screening stage, then the journal has several associate editors like me. And then, of course, each of us will receive some submissions of various topics. So that's why, based on the topic, you will assign that papers, that submissions to us. So once, as an associate editor, I receive the paper, I have two options. Either I can again just reject the paper. It means that I do understand that the editor-in-chief normally receives a lot of submissions and is busy. So that's why this process that we just now share with you again very quickly, I'll do. Of course, mine is the second stage. So that's why I do understand that some screening is done already by editor-in-chief. I'll do a quick screening. So if I'm convinced that the paper deserves to be reviewed, then I will invite the reviewers. About asking whether the associate editor reviewed the paper or not, sometimes, for example, I see that the topic of the paper is quite interesting, so I like the paper. It is the time that, of course, I'm not saying that it is very common, but sometimes if I like the topic of the paper, yes, I assign myself as a reviewer. But again, as I mentioned, it's not very common.
Mm-hmm. Then the next question is Google Scholar accurate? Not sure what you mean by accurate, but it has some limitations. For example, I don't think you can limit your search to, let's say, the abstract, or so it will. I think it will just search the whole, the text, the whole text, whole documents. So it has some limitations. Yeah. So I personally, yeah, for quick search, I prefer Google Scholar because it's very easy to use. If I want to put more, let's say, limitations in my search, I may use other search engines like Scopus. And then about multiple submissions, next question from Jesse. Jesse, yes, multiple submissions, it is not ethical. Yes, it is not ethical. You can submit only to one journal and you have to wait until you receive the decision. If you want to, in the middle of when you're waiting to receive the decision, if you want to submit somewhere else, you need to withdraw your manuscript.
Can we have a self-citation to our work in the article submitted? The answer is that yes, you can have the self-citation, but you have to follow again the author guidelines, because some of the journals, they have specifically mentioned that in case that you want to self-cite your paper, you have to remove your name as a citation, because it's a blind review process. So your name as an author nowhere should appear in the paper, not in form of the author, not in form of any submission. You have to refer the journal author guidelines.
Yeah. And about, can we ask, Rita asked, can we ask for explanation when we get rejection without any comment after waiting for a month? Of course you can ask, but I'm not sure whether the editors, so I'm not talking about myself, talking generally about, so I'm not sure whether, it depends on the editor. Some of them may respond, some of them not. So yeah, you can ask, but not sure what results you may get. Sometimes I ask, sometimes I personally, sometimes I ask, but yeah.
So another question is that what is the case, of course it's an editorial question, I believe, what is the case where one reviewer asks for minor revision and the other reviewer rejects the paper?
Yeah, you know, everything is in the hands of editors. So sometimes even the reviewer may say, you know, minor, and then the editor may reject it, right? So the editor needs to go through the comments and also check the manuscript and then make the decision. Sometimes we have had many cases that one reviewer said maybe reject, another one said major, and then the editor gave major. So this is the role of the editor, to check the comments, and then the comments, especially when the comments are not consistent, we go through the manuscript, and we usually add a note as the editor for the author that how to improve the paper, or if it's rejected, what were the main grounds for this rejection.
Please also ask the presenters, if you are working as a reviewer for a journal, how do you make it to the editorial board of that journal? What are the eligibility or criteria for entering on the editorial board of a journal? Where to find such criteria?
I'm not sure, each journal is different, but for our journal, when we have a list, we send paper manuscripts to some reviewers. When they do a good job, and they are very active in reviewing, we usually invite them to join the reviewer board, and then in the next round, we invite them to the editorial board.
Yeah, it depends. Normally, we look at the quality of the review. If you are invited to be a reviewer, my suggestion is that initially, if you are early career researcher, be very specific and detailed in the review process. And once the associate editor or the editor of the journal notices that, they will try it again with you. They will send another, or maybe the third or the fourth round of review to you. And as soon as they feel that you're committed to that, automatically in our journal, it works like that. You will be invited.
So there are some just discussions here. So I skipped those discussions to find a comment. What question is? Very nice question. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the feedback, Priyanka. And I see William actively is responding to comments. Okay, what's the question that William left us?
One question is that does this journal accept SLR papers or prioritize empirical papers? We accept everything, even SLR. Of course, we appreciate any type of paper.
Yeah, so you need to check the guideline, author's guideline, see whether they accept. Some journals don't accept, but I think most of the journals are fine with SLR papers. Okay, we target a journal is not guarantee whether it's accepted or not. So according to one journal guideline, it's American English. Now targeting another journal, follow British English. So how to handle? Yeah, this is the issue. Every time you get rejected, you need to revise your manuscript based on the new journal format, and it's really time consuming. Sometimes it takes, you know, a few days to complete, to revise it following the new journals guideline. No choice. You have to follow the author's guideline.
One question actually is, as Nawaz said, comparing to published articles of the target journal is useful, but how can we get it if it is a paid article?
I didn't get this.
It means that they, I think, is trying to say that some articles are paid articles. We can't get them. We can't access them. That you have to refer to the library of your university and get them. To subscribe to the databases such as Emerald, or you can do some kind of negotiation with, we have Emerald team here, you can negotiate with them.
Yeah, sometimes I write to the authors, ask them for the paper if they can share a copy with me. So yeah, this is, usually it should be through the library, universities.
And nowadays, even ResearchGate is a big help. You can connect to the authors to ResearchGate, and then you can request for the full text.
And about the video on Doctor's Live, yes, it will be there. The video will be there forever. And do you see any other question?
I'm trying. What is the difference between H-index publication and scoped index publication?
That one is not really in the scope of this webinar, but yes, Nawaz.
Yeah, you continue.
Yeah, but I'm not also sure what you mean by H-index publication and scope publication. Yes, maybe you mean, I don't know, I'm not sure really what the question. Maybe you can explain more, or maybe you can write. As I said, this is not the end of the session. We just had the chance to get to know you. So you have our LinkedIn. Just add us in LinkedIn and you can write to us. I mean, you can send a message to us. Good to be in contact. And if there was any question, anything we could do, please just write to us. LinkedIn, I think, is very easy to use. No need to write even an email.
The other one is saying that I'm interested in manuscript management system. Is it an open source system? Because it looks important for us as journal committee.
Yeah, William already answered this. No, it is not open to, but there are some platforms open. I mean, they're free, but I don't think people can use them. It should be a journal that, yeah. So I don't think authors or people individually can use these platforms. William already answered this question. So scrolling down, free conference, yes, okay. Doctors, okay, any question here? Have I missed anything, William? Oh, the question from Fuzzy is, my question is, how long does it take for external reviewers to conclude their review and provide the score for the submitted manuscript? Different journals, they have different, it depends on the journal, the time given to the reviewers, but at the end, it depends on the reviewer. So some of them, you know, they may submit quickly the review. Some of them, we have to follow them up. So yeah, I don't know how to answer this. So it depends on the reviewer.
Yeah, it depends on the reviewer. And of course, let me explain of my own experience is that sometimes, you know, myself, I'm the author as well. So I do understand that as an author, once we submit the paper, we are desperately waiting for the response. We do understand that. But on the other side, once the paper has gone on the review, we try our best to, for example, to send as many as reviewer as they agree to review. Because necessarily, once, even if they agree, they don't submit their review. So that's why, for example, let's say that we give them 2 months or 1 month time, but once it comes to the deadline, they haven't submit. So that's why once they don't submit their review, so again, we have to send it, we have to invite another reviewer, and again, the process will start. So that's why if you see that some of the journals, they don't get back to you, there's 2 reasons. Either they provide more time to the reviewer, for example, 2 months or 3 months, they give to the reviewer, or for example, the reviewer has not submitted the review. So that's why, again, the associate editor has to go has to start from scratch again to find, again, send the invitation and then wait until we receive the response, and then again, giving another 1 or 2 months to the reviewer to submit. And then he's saying that is the journal very strict with the number of wording in the author guidelines, any tolerance? I'm saying that, of course, again, journal to journal varies, but please follow author guidelines in terms of the numbers. And the reason is that if we put any limitation is because we can't convince the reviewer to accept the review if the paper is very lengthy. So that's why you have to consider that as well. So I strictly advise you to follow the guidelines.
Yeah, it's already 4 p.m. I'm not sure whether we can continue. There are so many other questions I just saw. For example, one was on Salami publication. I really like to talk about Salami. We need another 1 hour session. Please just Google about Salami. Some of these questions were very good, like Salami or graphical abstract. I suggest you Google about it. You can find a lot of good materials about it. Yes, Salami is not ethical. It's a very serious case. So yeah, as we already have reached to 4 p.m., so I'm not sure whether we can continue. But anyway, this is offered as an online course, as I said, on Siri. You can take this as a free course, and you can ask your questions there as well. And you can write to us, no need to write an official email. You can just write to us through LinkedIn. And please subscribe to this YouTube channel. We have been a bit busy these days. We haven't posted, the next video, but yeah, we will keep posting, and we hope we will see you in the free conference that will be held in September. Okay. Any William? Or sorry, Noor. Yeah, sorry, Dr. Noor, Azila, William.
Yes, right,
Yes.
right. It has been very, very, engaging. I really liked both of your presentations and the informations. I think most of the participants also agreed with me saying that both of you really deserve a big a round of applause. Dr. Sai, if you mind, could you unshare the
Yes.
desktop? Right. I would not want to take a lot of time. I just wanted to say a big thank you to both speakers, Dr. Sai and Dr. Nawaz, for your time, for your sharing, for all the information that you shared with us. To me, I also learned a lot today as well. I really, really thank you. I also like to take the opportunity to thank you, Prof. Nohaya, and also Dr. Azila from the Faculty of Business and Accountancy, University Selangor, in hosting this session as well. Most of the questions, I just want to address two questions. The most common two questions. The number one would be the certificate for today's webinar. Our host, University Selangor, will be preparing the certificate of attendance. So certificate attendance shall be prepared by our team in the Faculty of Business and Accountancy. For participants that join the full sessions today, you will be receiving the certificate of attendance. And then the second,
Sorry, I didn't know this. You didn't share this with me. I could include it in my slides.
Right. So sorry. Then another one would be the video recording. The video recording, yes, the video. This sessions right now is live in the DRS live YouTube channel. This video will also continue to be there as long as Dr. Syed allows it. so everybody can actually benefit by having this rewatch, and also as a reference and things like that. With that, that's all from me. Thank you so much. I'll pass the floor back to Dr. Azila for her closing remark.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just I add, yeah. So
yes, please.
All participants, through those who have registered, right? Through the initial registration, they will get a certificate, right?
Yes. For today's sessions.
So I will get a certificate too, because I also registered for this webinar.
Definitely you would.
Yeah,
so you will get two certificates, one from Unicel and one from Siri and Emerald. Yeah, okay, perfect. Oh, so many certificates. Okay, very good. Yeah, and okay, just before passing it over to Dr. Noor Azila, thank you very much for the opportunity, Unicel and Emerald. We really enjoyed being here and sharing our experience with you guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. to Mr. William Low. He is the man behind of all these things, make it possible, you know. And of course, a big thank you to the speakers of today, Dr. Said as well as Dr. Navas, for having a very informative webinar that we learned so much today. And I do hope after this, all the participants, we have a lot of participants. If I'm not mistaken, just now it was about 200 over 235. That was the maximum number that I saw this afternoon. So thank you for all the information. I think there's a lot that we learned. The summary, just like this formatting, is very, very crucial. You see, look at the guideline of the targeted journal that you want to go for to send the paper to. And then it is unethical to send more than one, because you see, I think some of the students are saying, because they have to wait a long time to get it the answer, whether they be accepted or not. That is why some of them send it to more than one, but it is not right. Okay. So what else? So read the aims and the scope of the paper, and make sure the methodology, you have some contribution there, and the reason why you are using certain methodology, and a lot more. I think all of the notes have been taken out by the participants. All right. Before I leave here, I would like to thank everyone, just now to Emerald, to the speakers, and as well as to all of the participants. I'm glad you're all here, and from now on, let's send our paper to the right journal, and we publish a lot in future. All right, thank you everyone. That's all for today.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone. Thank you.
Before we all left, could I have a small request? Since we have the committees here having our video, would you be okay for the participants, if you're able to join us, to turn on your webcam? Then I'll just have a screenshot of these particular sessions. Right? Okay. Right. I do have quite a number of people here. So
I see many beautiful faces.
I want to say cheers. 1, 2, and 3. All right. Thank you so much. I think yep, that's all from me. Thank you so much again to the host, Faculty of Business and Accountancy, Prof. Nohaya, and also Dr. Noor Azila, and also to both our two speakers. With that, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Our pleasure, Mr. William.
Thank you, Unicel. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Nohaya. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Azila.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure.